All right, my name is Maseo.
Maseo?
What's up, buddy? Uh, God, my life. My life. I started partying when I was 14 years old. You know, before that, I never felt like I fit in with my people. I'm a light skinned Latino with blue eyes and light hair, but I don't speak Spanish. And I didn't fit in with the white community and I didn't fit in with the Mexican community. And so I never felt a part of. Um, so when I was 14 and my best friend at the time, said we're going to smoke this stuff, I just took it. And I remember smoking and thinking all of a sudden, I don't care if I don't fit in anymore. I'm finally comfortable in my own skin. You know, so I ran with that. I remember thinking, I want this every day for the rest of my life. From the beginning, from day one, I knew this was going to be a big part of my life. And I chased it. I chased that feeling of comfort that I got from the booze, that I got from the weed, you know, and that led me into other stuff. I get into narcotics and psychedelics and basically anything I could get my hands on as a teenager. And that worked real well for from 14 till about 20, 21 years old. And then that lifestyle caught up with me real quick, and I ended up at 21 years old, I ended up in my first rehab. And, I just, all I wanted to do was get the girlfriend back, so I went in there, did my little 28 days. And as soon as and they talked about God, they talked about spirituality, they talked about fellowship and, prayer and meditation. And I was like, yeah, that's good. I'm going to do all that. And I left and I left the rehab that afternoon. And that night I was using again. And I remember when I went to one of the houses that I partied at and I came out 2-3 days later, I didn't know if the sun was coming up or coming down. I was out of it, and I do remember thinking, what happened? I was sober. I had just cleaned up. What happened? And, my journey continued. I went out there and I kept partying, got my business back. I was a drug dealer, got my business back, made more money than ever. And, but then my second crash was even harder than my first. And I ended up in another rehab about 2-3 years later. And, this was a ghetto rehab in MacArthur Park. And, I left that. I lasted 45 days there and then I left. I remember my dealer brought me some dope to the rehab. And about 2 days after he brought me that dope, I was like, I'm out of here. And I took off. Again, I went out, got my business back, started making even more money, traveled a lot. I traveled a lot, was out of the country all the time, was out of the city all the time, spending all kinds of money. And, and then I went to another rehab at 28. I went to my one of my last rehabs, and it was there I lasted almost a year. I lasted 11 and a half months. I was there, clean, got a job, wasn't selling drugs, working at a restaurant, and then they told me, you have to go. We need that bed. You're good now. You know what to do to stay sober. You know what to do. Still no, I wasn't doing anything but not drinking and not using. I wasn't praying. I wasn't meditating. Nothing was happening. I just wasn't using, and life was good. I have to admit, life was good. But I didn't know how much better it could get. I didn't know how much easier life could get. I was still holding on to self. And, I went back out there. I took my last trip. I went to Mexico for about 3 months, and I hid out, and I found some guys, and we partied. I found the purest drugs I had ever found. Cheap tequila, cheap beer, women, and I only left Mexico because I knew I would die there if I didn't leave. I knew I was going to overdose. So I left, and met a woman, and we were going to, she was going to save me. She was a doctor. She was going to save me. We were going to start a family. And she said, all you need to do is take care of my kids, take care of the house, and I'll take care of everything else. And, for all intents and purposes, I had it made. But I couldn't live that lifestyle. I was just not, I was not comfortable. And a month later, I was so uncomfortable. I wasn't drinking, I wasn't using, but I was so uncomfortable that I started a fight with her so she could kick me out. And she kicked me out, and I just drove down to my usual spots, and I ended up in Hollywood. Got my dope, and I was gone. And I disappeared for about 3-4 months. And it ended with her and I. And my journey down continued. I couldn't sell drugs anymore. I just wasn't reliable. I wasn't making any money, so I had to get a job. I got a job at a restaurant full of drug addicts. And it had a bar, so the owner just said, I don't care if you drink, I don't care what you do as long as you do your job. So I remember, I lost one apartment, then I lost another one, and then eventually I was homeless. I was living on the street 6 months, and I had accepted the fact that I was a drug addict. I had accepted the fact that that's what I was going to be. That's all I was ever going to be, and that I was going to die a drug addict. And it was okay. I was okay with it. I was okay with being homeless. I was okay with being a drug addict. Wake up, hustle to get the dope, get the dope, go to work, do more dope, come home, do more dope. That was it. That's all it was. And one night I finished working, and I remember I was partying with the guy, and I was like, I'm done with life. This sucks. And I broke into my dad's house, and I was going to kill myself. I had a gun, and I was going to kill myself. And, the thought came to me that my dad was on vacation, and I was like, I can't blow my brains out in my dad's house, have him come home from vacation with my brains all over the ceiling. So for the first time in my life ever, I prayed, and I just said, God, help me kill myself cleanly and thoroughly. And I drank until I passed out. And I came to the next afternoon, and I didn't want to die. Something changed between when I asked for help and I drank myself to sleep to that afternoon when I came to. Something changed, and I didn't want to die. And I remember thinking, oh shit, there is a God. I've been wrong all these years. I knew that I asked for help. It wasn't the God, please help me, but God knew the pain I was in. He knew. And the next day I had that micrometer, that little tiny bit of willingness to change. And I went to visit some friends at a fellowship hall, and we talked, and I told them how much I hated everybody, how much I hated life, how much I hated myself. And they laughed, and they said, man, you're one day without drugs and alcohol. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. I said, come back next week and hang out with us. And I came back the next week, and these guys were a good group of guys that knew how to live life without drugs and alcohol. And they taught me the power of talking to another human being and telling them, hey, being vulnerable. Hey man, I don't feel good right now. I'm thinking about dope. I'm thinking about alcohol. I'm thinking about my ex-girlfriend. I don't like the way I feel. And they taught me how to pray. They taught me how to meditate. They taught me how to ask God for help. They taught me to offer myself to God. Say, God, what can I do? What can I do? I want to do your will. Help me do your will. And my life is much, much different today. You know, it's been a while now. No drugs, no alcohol. And I lean on God every single day. Every single day I pray and I meditate. Every single day I ask God for help. Every single day I thank God, not just for the good stuff, you know, not just for all the miracles and the blessings and the opportunities, but I thank God for the pain and the guilt and the shame and the remorse that I feel. You know, when I'm scared, when I don't think when I try to start to convince myself that I can't do something, that I would rather not do it than fail at it. You know, when my brain tells me just quit before I even start, when I got to have a conversation with somebody and it's going to be deep and there's going to be a lot of tears, I got to ask God for help. And God walks with me through these things, holds my hand. The presence of God in my life, I feel like I'm never alone. There's days when I'm like, God, let's walk together. And then there's days when I'm like, God, I need you to carry me. I can't take it today. I need you a little more today than I did yesterday. You know, and that works for me. That prayer and meditation, it takes away my fear. It takes away my resentments. It takes away my anger. It takes away my jealousy. It takes away my ego. And all those things come back. They all come. I invite them back. I look for them. You know? And then I recognize what's going on and I ask God, please, God, help me out again. And I talk to God every day like God is a family member. Because to me, he is a family member. To me, he is. And it works. You know, it makes life easier. Life is already hard, but it makes life just a little bit easier. When I wake up in the morning with the fuck yous, and I hate everybody, but I don't want to hate everybody, but I can't stop hating everybody. And I ask God, God, please, I just want these people to be happy and healthy. Please, God, I just want these people to be happy and healthy. And after a short while of meditating and praying, it lifts. It lifts. I can feel it in my body. I'm standing up a little straighter. I'm smiling. I'm laughing. I'm joking with myself, and I know God took it from me. And that's what I need in life. You know, God gets me through everything that I think I can't get through. And I try to learn from stuff. You know, prayer and meditation is, if anybody comes to me with problems, says, hey, this is what's going on in my life, the first thing I tell them is, have you prayed and have you meditated? It's the first thing I do. Have you asked God for help? Have you asked God for strength? You know, I got a friend of mine. He asked God the other day for patience and tolerance. And then he got put into a situation where he had to practice patience and tolerance. And he called me up, livid. And I said, hey man, you just asked God for patience and tolerance. He's going to put you in a situation where you have to practice patience and tolerance. And that's how it works for me. Seems like it's how it works for that guy. You know, I ask God for help. God will help me. He may not help me in the way that I like, but God's going to help me. You know, and I try to keep an open mind and an open eyes, open ears, open heart. Definitely an open heart. Because I like to shut God out. You know, but God is like the sun. Just because I don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. You know, God's always in my life. Anyway, that's all I got.